Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Kingdom Deluxe class Cheetor. And here we have Cheetor fully transformed up into his awesome looking Cheetor alt mode. And once again I honestly do believe that Hasbro and Takara Tomy have potentially just released their best mainline representation of Cheetor yet. I really do believe that this figure here looks absolutely fantastic. Just giving you a very quick 360-degree spin on this particular release. You can see that he has been sculpted and painted impeccably well. Almost every single angle of this figure has at least some area of paint application or at least some incredible sculpt work. If I just bring him in here for a closer look, you can see that the head sculpt looks fantastic. I really do love the precise nature of the sculpt here, similarly to that of Rat Trap. It does appear as if though Hasbro is going for a slightly more realistic approach to their beast modes than as opposed to animation accurate. However, personally for me, I'm absolutely all for that, and I really cannot wait to see how these characters look when the Kingdom Netflix series does eventually debut on Netflix. You can see that the sculpt work there for the head I think looks terrific. You've got the sculpted in detailings there of where the eyes would be. I love all of the paint applications. Quite honestly, I do believe this figure to be one of the best painted deluxes out of the entire Kingdom line so far. You can see that unfortunately they haven't painted some small black dots in there for the eyes. I'm completely unsure as to why that is. Perhaps it was too small and they didn't want to mess it up, or perhaps the black for the iris would have looked rather odd when compared to some of the black detailing that he has got going on here for the head. But just taking a look there at all of the polka dot spots, I think that these have all been applied incredibly well. No paint bleeds whatsoever. Everything on this figure does appear as if though it has had care and attention put into it. You can see that we do have some fantastic sculpted in texture as well in order to give you the illusion that this figure is indeed furry. And as we just turn him to the underside, you can see that where the hands do store, these two have also got that same furry texture in detailing. I really do love the difference between the colour that they've used here for the belly of the figure than compared to the colour that we have here for the top. Of course, that is indeed very realistic to a real life cheetah, and I really do think that this is a prime example of just how much care and attention Hasbro are indeed putting into these Kingdom figures. As we bring his head sculpt in here for a closer look, you can see that they have indeed sculpted and painted all of the teeth in there, including the top two fangs there. This is indeed articulated, mainly due to transformation. However, you can definitely utilize it here for the cheetah mode, so I think that that too is a phenomenal amount of detail. We've got some fantastic sculpt work there for the ears, and then as we just take a look here at the proportions, I think that the legs, the muscular detailing really does look incredible. The anatomy of this figure I definitely think is very realistic, and as we take a look here at the tail, I think that the detailing as well as the paint applications has come out incredibly well. The only area of which I have a slight complaint is to do with this entire back region, as these do form the shins of the robot mode. These unfortunately are just a completely bright blue colour, and it definitely does look rather odd when compared next to the rest of the figure. However, if you have him displayed here from a front on perspective, of course you're not going to notice them too much, and seeing as this is only a deluxe class, I personally don't have any issues with this whatsoever. In terms of articulation for this mode, you saw earlier on that he does have an articulated jaw, and this can be opened to an incredibly wide extent. However, to me this looks incredibly exaggerated and definitely very dramatic. Of course, Cheetor in the Beast Wars show was incredibly expressive, so perhaps this isn't too much of a drawback from his actual on-screen counterpart, but definitely nonetheless a really nice point of articulation. Here for the legs, I was actually quite surprised to see that these are on ball joints, so you can make Cheetor here slightly more broader in terms of his appearance. However, you will expose some of this blue plastic detailing, which I honestly would have much preferred it if they would have cast this here in this type of plastic, as you'd never see these in the robot mode, so I'm really unsure as to why they did cast them in blue. But nonetheless, you can see that these here can rock forwards and backwards. They can also hinge out to the sides. We can also rotate the legs forwards and backwards. We do have a hinge joint here where I presume the knee joint would be, and then finally we do have a ball joint here for the foot, and you can see that once again the amount of detailing that we've got going on here, even for the base of the foot, I think is really nicely done. You can definitely pick out some claws, and if you just take a black Sharpie to those, you can probably paint the nails there black, which once again would definitely create for an incredibly realistic look. As we turn here to the back of the figure, this is where things get slightly limited. We do have a hinge joint here. However, as you begin to move this all around, it does slightly break up the illusion of the overall cheetah beast mode. So personally, I do just tend to leave this here static. We do have some hinge joints here for the knees, and then once again some ball joints here for the feet. So in terms of articulation and detailing, I think that Cheetor here looks absolutely terrific in his cheetah alt mode. And here for a beast mode size comparison, we have Cheetor compared next to another deluxe class, that being the Earthrise Wheeljack, as well as the recently reviewed Kingdom Core class Rat Trap. And I think that these two figures here look absolutely fantastic. It's great to finally be getting some mainline Maximals back into our Transformers collection, and I'm really anticipating as to what Hasbro have up their sleeves for this particular line. But just giving you a closer comparison, you can see that Rat Trap, considering he is a core class and the next size up is the deluxe class, there is definitely a considerable size difference in terms of the amount of plastic used as well as the engineering and just the overall mass of the figure. You can see that Cheetor is definitely significantly bigger than Rat Trap, as he really should be. Just setting Rat Trap here off to the side and bringing in Wheeljack for a closer inspection, you can see that for the most part I would say that they're roughly on par with one another in terms of the amount of plastic used, so it's definitely great to see that they are distributing the plastic on these particular animals as well as they were with the more traditional vehicle modes that we are used to getting. But just there for a quick comparison, you can see that Cheetor is significantly higher than that of our Earthrise Wheeljack, and in all is definitely an incredibly substantial deluxe class. And so with Cheetor mode now completely covered, Cheetor, maximize, let's get him fully transformed up into his robot mode. So to begin with, what I like to do is come to this section here and just try your best to actually split the entire belly section. Once this is done, we can then hinge these sections here out to the sides. We can then take the arms and just fold those around, rotate there at the bicep, take the wrist here and rotate that around, and of course repeat the same process here for the opposite side. The transformation is incredibly straightforward on this particular release, which is awesome to see. You're then going to want to open the legs here at the back, take this entire tail section and actually remove it. Very reminiscent to that of Cheetor's original toy, which I think is a really nice homage. However, with that off to the side, we can then turn our attention here to the legs, just straighten those out, and you're just going to want to bring these sections here all the way up until they are flat, and then just bring the feet out, and of course repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just hinge all of this up. You're then going to want to take this section, and something worth noting is that originally there was actually a tab on this. However, as my good friend Chefatron would say, this is definitely a peg of doom. There is no way you can transform this figure without snapping that off, as you do have to apply a considerable amount of force to actually wedge this in here for robot mode, which is super unfortunate. However, I am happy to report that if this does unfortunately break on your copy, that it is not a big issue whatsoever. The Cheetor head does stay in the Cheetor mode incredibly well and will not become loose nor floppy, and when in robot mode it does solidify in there also incredibly well. So I'm really unsure as to why they did actually put that there. It definitely is a mystery to me, but you're going to want to take the mouth here and just open this all the way up, and you can see a slot in there that this tab is going to go into. So you're just going to want to collapse all this in, and you can see that there is literally minimal clearance, so there is no way that you can actually peg this in without putting pressure on that tab, and believe me, there is no way whatsoever that you can actually remove the head without potentially snapping that off. So that is definitely a design flaw in my opinion. However, as stated, is definitely not a big deal if that tab does actually break on you. You're going to want to push this in and snap that into place. These sections here will just compress into the torso. We can then rotate the Cheetor robot mode head all the way around, come here to the back, and in true Cheetor fashion, just fold the Cheetor legs here on the back. And with all that being said, here we have Cheetor fully transformed up into his awesome looking robot mode. And so now taking a look here at Cheetor in his robot mode, you can see that once again, I believe Hasbro and Takara Tomy have done a fantastic job in capturing Cheetor's appearance from that original Beast Wars cartoon series. I think this figure here looks fantastic. Of course, slightly stylized to better match his appearance in what I presume is going to be the Kingdom Netflix series. However, in my opinion, definitely has a design which matches his original Beast Wars counterpart. I think this figure looks fantastic. You can see that we've got the legs that fold up there on the back. I really do love how the chest actually splits and becomes this almost shoulder armor there, and if I just bring him in for a closer look, the head sculpt is so faithful to his original Beast Wars counterpart. I think that there looks absolutely terrific, and similarly to Rat Trap, they have gone the extra mile to actually stamp on a tiny maximal symbol. You can see that we've got some fantastic metallic blue paint application applied there for the mouth, a slightly darker black paint app applied for the lips, and then as you take a look there, we've also got some orange paint applications there for the eyes. I just think that the overall design of Cheetor's helmet looks fantastic from all angles, so definitely a really nice job where the head sculpt is concerned. It's awesome to see that unlike the Masterpiece version, they have actually managed to get the real Cheetor head into the actual robot mode torso. I think that that's amazing engineering, especially here for a deluxe class. We've of course got the blue shoulders to match his original Beast Wars appearance, and as we take a look here, I think the proportions for the arms all look fantastic. We do have some Cheetor kibble here, however personally I don't think this looks too bad whatsoever, and seeing as this is only a deluxe class, I think that they've done a really nice job. Once again, love all of the detailing that we have got going on here with the polka dots as well as the actual sculpted in detailing there. And as we turn down here to the crutch plate, very accurate to the animation with the blue paint applications, and I love the curvature to this section as well as the detailing there for the thighs. And as we take a look here down to the shins, this is perhaps my only area of criticism, is that these sections are incredibly visible, and this is something that I really wish that they would have done better. If they had just found a way to actually compress this section into perhaps a hollow gap here. I really do believe that that could potentially amplify the overall look, as it does make his shins rather jut out and definitely do look rather odd when compared next to the rest of the sculpt. However, personally, the rest of the figure is so good that I am able to easily overlook this, but we do have some nice blue paint applications here, as well as actually on the main leg as well, in order to make this look slightly more cohesive. We do have some incredibly tiny feet as well, which is the only area of which I don't believe this figure to look proportionately accurate. However, nonetheless, you can see that when he does just stand there, it doesn't look too bad. It is only when you begin to bring the figure in for a closer inspection that they do begin to look slightly odd. In terms of articulation, the head here is on a ball joint, so it can look left to right, as well as up to a fantastic degree, which I have found this to be amazing for actually getting this figure into some dynamic poses. This is, of course, for the transformation. However, here for robot mode, I think that it works fantastically well. We do have hinge joints here which can go up and down. We also do have a butterfly joint here due to transformation, which once again I have found incredibly useful in getting this figure into some dynamic poses. Full 360 rotation here at the bicep, as well as a slightly over 90-degree bend there at the elbow, only on a single hinge joint as well, so that is for sure a great degree of motion. Full 360 rotation at the wrists, full 360 rotation here at the waist. For some strange reason, this entire crotch plate here can hinge forwards. However, I have found no use for this whatsoever, as you really don't need to move this out of the way in order to get a better range of motion out of the hip. So I'm for sure rather puzzled as to why they did include that. You can see that the hips are easily able to kick out to the sides to a great degree, and they can also kick back to about that far. He can do the splits, not to an incredibly wide stance. However, personally, I have found this to be more than adequate when posing him. Full 360 rotation here at the thigh, as well as a 90-degree bend there at the knee. And then finally, turning to the feet, due to transformation, we have a hinge joint forwards and backwards, as well as a fantastic ankle rocker joint, which once again really does help to amplify this figure into some fantastic poses. Another gripe that I do have with this figure is where the weapons are concerned. The entire towel here has no transformation whatsoever, and I really would have loved it if they would have included his rather disgusting looking gun that I believe was formed out of his guts in the animation. Of course, I do believe that perhaps they did not decide to include that, as this would have maybe made the younger audience slightly uncomfortable. However, for us collectors, it would have been awesome to have gotten that gun. But you can see here that the tail is definitely more than a suitable enough weapon for Cheetor to use in order to whack the Predacons into existence. You can see that we can hold this two ways. I do actually prefer having him holding it by the peg that you do insert for the Cheetor mode, as I do believe that if you insert this in his hand over time, the paint applications here for the tail are definitely going to begin to rub. But for the sake of the review, I will quickly show you how that looks. You can see that this piece here acts as almost as if though it is a blade for him to hack at the Predacons, which once again is a really nice use of some of the extra leftover kibble. So in terms of robot mode, I think that this figure here is absolutely fantastic. And here for a robot mode size comparison, I have Cheetor compared next to an Optimus Primal figure, as well as the recently reviewed Kingdom Core Class Rat Trap. And I really do love the scale between these two figures. It is definitely on par with what we see in the animation, so it's great to see that Hasbro did create an entire new size class so that we could get an accurate scale, as I believe that if they were to perhaps had made Rat Trap a deluxe class, he would have been too big to scale here with Cheetor, and of course future Kingdom releases. So in terms of scale, I for sure think that this works fantastically well. Unfortunately, we don't have a recent Optimus Primal figure to actually compare with. Here I have the SDCC Power of the Primes version, and I really do hope that Kingdom does grant us a new Optimus Primal, as I think that that figure would probably have to be a Voyager class, and in my opinion would scale really nicely with our Deluxe and Core class. Just taking this figure here out of the equation and bringing in an Earthrise Deluxe, you can see that Cheetor is slightly smaller than that of the Deluxe class Earthrise Smokescreen, but definitely where Smokescreen is hollow, Cheetor does fill out. So I do think that the plastic once again is definitely carried over here for this particular line, but you can see that he is for sure slightly smaller than that of Smokescreen. So that was your robot mode comparison. And so now turning to reverse transformation here for Cheetor. To begin with, you're going to want to take the head sculpt and just rotate that there all the way around. We can then take the arms and just lift those up and take these torso pieces and just fold those out. This is where I go back to my earlier point in stating that I really do wish that they hadn't had included that peg there at all, as you really do have to angle this at a rather odd degree, which is for sure going to snap the peg. I'm really unsure as to why they actually sculpted that peg in there, but nonetheless, you're going to want to take the head and just hinge this all the way up, collapse the jaw in, and then this whole section will completely conceal over the robot mode head and will snap in there really nice and securely. We can then turn our attention to this side, rotate there at the bicep, and then repeat the same process here for the opposite side. Take the wrists here and rotate those around and repeat the same process. Tab those into place, and now here what I recommend doing is, it can be rather difficult before we tab all of this into place, but you just want to align this up in a way that looks something along the lines of this. We can then proceed to hinge this in, and that will just click into place like so. Take these pieces and just lift those over the top, and then they will clip together, which will then subsequently solidify this entire region into place. We can then hinge down the cheetah legs, come here to this section, hinge this back, fold the foot into the back of cheetah's thigh, and then repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just hinge those down, bring in the tail, and just peg this into place. And it is now just a matter of aligning the legs up appropriately in order to get a more natural and realistic stance for him in this particular mode. But with all that being done, here we have Cheetor fully transformed up once again into his Cheetor alt mode. And so some final thoughts here for the Transformers Kingdom Deluxe class Cheetor. I really do like this particular figure. As stated earlier on in the review, I really do believe this to be the best mainline Cheetor that we have ever gotten. The Kingdom releases so far definitely appear to be incredibly strong, and I also do believe them to be potentially some of the best out of the entire War for Cybertron trilogy. Cheetor here is no exception to that statement. I really do love all of the sculpting and detailing as well as paintwork that this figure has going on for him. The stripes as well as the dots here I think have been applied incredibly well with no paint bleeds whatsoever. I was really surprised to see that here for a deluxe class figure. You can see just how clean it all looks, and he looks really realistic. I love the head sculpt. I really do love the realistic aesthetic that they are giving for the beast modes. However, very animation accurate robot modes. I really do think that that is a fantastic balance, and I cannot wait to see these on the screen when the Netflix series does debut and we do eventually get round to the third and final chapter in the War for Cybertron. I think that Cheetor mode looks fantastic. The transformation is for sure definitely not as complex as some of the other figures. However, I do think that it is incredibly effective. It's really enjoyable to go back from both modes, and Robot Mode 2 is also a really nice looking figure. The articulation, I have no flaws on it whatsoever. I really do believe that it is one of the best articulated deluxes that we have gotten so far, and in terms of paintwork as well as accuracy to the cartoon, I think that it is really and truly quite flawless. My only area of criticism in regards to the robot mode would really be to the lower leg transformation. I do wish that perhaps they could have maybe hollowed out these pieces ever so slightly more, so that in robot mode the actual Cheetor legs could have folded in a lot more in order to give him a slightly more sleeker appearance. However, that is just a very minor gripe, and I maybe would have liked to have seen perhaps that gun that he does use in the animation. However, as stated before, I really do believe that that was perhaps left out due to it being considered unsuitable for kids, as it is a very gruesome piece, especially if you do have the masterpiece version. So for sure, a really nice figure, and definitely one that I am indeed glad to add to the collection. I really do hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below. Also, be sure to let me know what you think on the figure and whether or not you will be adding him to your collection. I thank you all for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.